And welcome in, everybody. We're talking Out of the Park Baseball 24. This is the Philadelphia Phillies Playoff Push podcast for the 2024 season. Here's what we got for you today. September is over. What does it mean for the Phillies? The Phillies are in the playoffs, but they haven't clinched that division yet. We'll talk about details of all of that and who could potentially ruin their hopes for the division title. Phillies had a big injury a couple days ago. We'll talk about that, how it affects the roster. Somewhat surprising roster move this week because of that injury, but it does pay off against the Mets. We'll give you the details on that as well. NL East standings. We'll talk about the Phillies' magic number and who the Phillies could see from the East in the playoffs. We'll take an overall look at the pennant chase and the playoff race, I should say, all around the league. Who's in, who has some work to do in American and National League. We'll take a closer look at our division rival Nationals, someone you've seen in previous editions of this video series. They have some work to do for a wild card spot, but they are still alive for the division title. We'll look at the final 6 games for the Phillies this season. What do they need to do to take care of business, wrap up the NL East? What are our plans going forward? Why are we doing a podcast today? Why are we doing this? It's been a video series with highlights up to this point. What's my thinking on this? We're 6 games away from the playoffs. How are we going to cover this division race? And then how are we going to cover the playoffs as well? Got some ideas. We're going to throw them out there. If you're discovering this on YouTube, I should mention that these videos were created as a supplement to a dynasty series I've started in the OOTP 24 forums. I'll put a link down below if you're interested in checking that out. One of the things I'm working on here is to try to make that video series have some context, where initially it was something we did on the forums. I would post on the forums, post these videos to supplement that. But if you found it through YouTube, there's not a lot of context. We're trying to fix that. All right. Hey, thank you for listening, taking the time out of your day to tune in. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And let's get it rolling. All right. After that pregnant pause, we'll get things going here as I bring up my notes, because I am eternally forgetful. I need to keep myself on track. All right, like I said, this is Philadelphia Phillies Playoff Push podcast 2024 season. We'll talk a little bit about how this team came together and why this roster is so much different than you might be seeing in real life as well. We'll give the background on that, because I don't think I've ever explained that. All right, let's start with this. September's over. Let's take a look at the month. We'll bring that up on the screen for you. Whoops. Oh, I was in the wrong spot. There we go. That'd be a little better. All right, so here's the month of September. Not a great month for the Phillies. It's a 12-14 month for them overall. Started out great, won the first 3 games. 2 out of 3 from the Angels, who are a pretty good club. Swept by Milwaukee. Milwaukee just took it to us for 3 days in Milwaukee. Bounced back 2 out of 3 from San Diego. They're a playoff team, the top-ranked wild card, I believe, in the National League. Then there's Marlins. We just can't beat the Marlins, man. I never can beat the Marlins. They get me 2 out of 3. Atlanta, that series right there was key. The 17th, 18th, and 19th, because Atlanta was surging. They were catching up to the Nationals. It was starting to look like it might be a 3-team race for that wild card, but also maybe the division. The Braves had some head-to-head games with the Phillies and the Nationals going for their final 4 or 5 weeks of the season, so they had a chance. Phillies took 2 out of 3 there and kind of cooled them down a little bit. Went to St. Louis and got clobbered for 3 days. The Cardinals just owned that series. And then Atlanta takes 2 out of 3 there. But at that point, the Braves had cooled off a little bit. Phillies take 3 out of 4 from the Mets to end the month and put themselves in a good spot right now for the playoffs, for the division title. The Phillies, actually, I should say, clinched a playoff spot. It happened on the 28th, the day they lost 3-1 to the Mets. But the Phillies are in the playoffs, so no matter what happens, they're in. We'll take a closer look at that in a little bit. But one thing that did happen a few days ago, let's go back, and we got to find Rhys Hoskins, because Rhys Hoskins is now on the IL he'll be out for about 5 weeks, I believe, yet. He was hurt on the 26th in a game against the Mets, 7-6 victory over the Mets. Rhys, very, very important part of this team. Does not hit for average. On-base percentage, not as high as it used to be, but for a guy that's hitting 226, he does walk quite a bit. Selective at bats. He strikes out a lot, that's true, but 37 home runs this season. So it's a lot of pop missing from, he's usually hitting 6th, 5th, maybe 5th, 6th, sometimes 7th, depending on how the lineup's shaking out. But he is a big guy in that bat. It gives the lineup depth, a lot of depth. It's nice to have a 5th, 6th bat that has 37 home runs. So he's out for the rest of the regular season. Obviously, if the Phillies go deep enough, I didn't do the math on this yet to see what round, but if they do stay alive and keep going, I think he would be back for the later part of the playoffs. But the Phillies have to do a lot of winning without Rhys Hoskins in order to see him again this season. So that's a big hit for the Phillies. His leadership too. I mean, it is a factor in out of the park baseball. If you don't play, personality does come into play in this game. And Hoskins also a very popular player, nationally popular. Yes, an important piece of the puzzle with a fractured thumb, out for 5 weeks. We will see if we see him again. Hopefully we see him again this season, because that's good news for the Phillies. All right, what's up next? All right, so with the roster, how did that affect the roster? What did the Phillies do with that roster spot once he goes to the IL? Well, what I decided to do, I keep saying what they did. It's actually me doing it. What I did was I brought up another pitcher. And the reason I did that was because, let's go back here. That happened on the 26th right here. As you can see, we had a stretch of no days off. The 30th was the first day off in 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 days roughly. So here we hit that game. That's where Rhys got hurt. That was a 12-inning game. Pitching staff bullpen was very depleted at that point. And you see here the day before was a 9-0 loss. So starting pitching was rough going into this game. And very tired pitching staff. So what I decided to do was I went with an extra pitcher. We have the expanded rosters right now, so it's 28 guys. So you're looking at, where'd he go? There he is. Adrian Hernandez. Called up Adrian Hernandez from AAA. Down at AAA, he had been pitching very, very well. You see 76 innings, just 70 hits, 1.34 whip, 1.6 WAR, 2.83. He had 4 saves, 3-3. So that's all in 58 games. So he's pitching well. He's a guy that I picked up a while ago from Toronto, and he's been one of those guys on the bubble of coming up. The longer I play out of the park baseball, I'm learning to look less at the overall number, especially for pitchers. But when you look at, he's got good stuff and good movement. The control's not so great, and he's a fly ball pitcher. So generally, low control and a fly ball pitcher is bad news in Citizens Bank Park. So in general, I try to stay away from that. But with Hernandez, he has above average stuff, above average movement, fastball, curveball, and a dynamite changeup. So he's somebody that could go against that trend of fly ball pitchers in Citizens Bank Park. He could miss some bats, and that's why I picked him up. That's why I'm gonna give him a shot. When we got Hernandez, it's important to remember that the bullpen that I had on this team was 15th in the National League, I want to say, something like that. So we were just looking for folks. We were looking for arms. And since then, the bullpen has come a long way. Kind of getting distracted from what I wanted to talk about here. But the Phillies bullpen this season, the 2024 season, is number 1 in the National League. And that's without. Let's go back to the bullpen here. Gallegos was our closer. Giovanni Gallegos is someone I picked up. He was our closer. He was actually doing really well, then just fell off, was really struggling and had a major injury. He's out like 10 months. So now we're going Osuna and Alvarado are mixing up the closing here. Both have been very effective. Either one of them could just take over that role, but what I thought I would do for the rest of the season since that injury is use both of them and sort of do matchups. Neither one of them is a guy who has to do matchups. Like Alvarado can get righties out, Osuna can get lefties out, but why not maximize, their potential? I don't know how you want to say that, but why not put them in situations, set them up to win as best as possible? And also some days it just comes down to who's available, who's tired, who's ready to go. So we're kind of running with two closers. Well, we are running with two closers. Looking at the rest of the pen, Arias doing a nice job since he got called up, just 12 innings on this season. Another guy that was down at AAA, just getting people out, waiting for their chance. Fought, I don't know if that's how you say that dude's name, but we'll call him Brandon. Brandon, I picked up. I think he was on. I think he was on waivers, honestly. And I just looked and I kind of liked. I liked the potential he's got there. He's got good stuff, good control. He's an extreme fly ball guy again. Another one, a guy I took a chance on when I was trying to piece together this bullpen. Oh no, I got him from a trade in Arizona. I was thinking he was waived, but got him in a trade from Arizona. That's right. But he hasn't done so great. He did really well in AAA. Has not done so well since calling up. But Finnegan picked up a couple of years ago. First year he was dynamite. Last year not so great. This year bounced back. Blake Trinan from the Dodgers. Yeah, this is not your Phillies bullpen in real life. Raidel Martinez picked up. He's been very effective. James Norwood. Here's a guy, man. I got to show you this guy. I know. I'm off of what I was planning on talking about here, but James Norwood came to the Phillies, I think, before I started this. I think he was picked up from another organization, but a guy that he's a 38 overall. This is what I was talking about earlier, right? 38 overall. In the past, I would have just saw that and just moved right past him. But what I liked about him, he's got dynamite stuff, dynamite fastball, slider, splitter, the control, and the movement. But he came up 2022 for me. I had nothing in the bullpen. I really didn't. So I put this guy in as the long man, and he went 4-1, under 4 in 56 games. Pretty effective. I mean, that's not a bad long man, right? You'd take that. And then the second season, he continued to do it again. And this year, he's been better than ever. 79 innings. The guy's got 109 strikeouts in 79, just under 80 innings, a 1.26 whip. He's been fantastic. The thing with him is, for whatever reason, and I don't know how they model this into this game, man, but if I bring him in as a long reliever or say seventh inning, usually does pretty good. Or if the game goes extra innings or something, it's all right. If everybody's hurt and I need somebody to close a game out, it's not James Norwood. It just does not work out. He doesn't work well in the 8th and 9th innings of close games for whatever reason. But yeah, he's been a huge player in the rebuilding of this bullpen, taking it from 15th to number 1. I keep saying that now. I'm probably going to get hammered the last 6 games of the season out of the bullpen. Adrian Hernandez, as we talked about, was the guy called up because of Hoskins being hurt. Not pitching well, only an inning and 2/3 though. And Kyle Dohe has been really good. 51 innings, 2.28 ERA. He's even saved 2 games. Another guy that came up because there was a roster space and I needed another pitcher. But this bullpen has been pretty damn good all season. So yeah, there you go. I guess Osuna and Alvarado are names that you would know around the league. Finnegan's been around a bit. Trinan's been around, but a lot of guys that, I wasn't aware of who they are. I just picked them up because I liked something about them. Yeah, so that's an in-depth look at the bullpen that I didn't plan on doing. Let's take a look at the standings because that's the big story right now. I'm burying the lead. That's what I'm doing. All right, so we'll start in the East with our Phillies. You see they got the Z next to their name, and that, of course, is because they have clinched a playoff spot, 85 and 71. Magic number's 3 games. So it's getting there. They got a 3.5 game. We got a 3.5 game lead over the Nationals. You see Atlanta drop down to 77 and 79. Like I said, they came on. They were pushing. They were pushing the Phillies and the Nationals really like 2-3 weeks ago. Big surge. But since they have faded, there was a lot of head-to-head games between the Phillies, the Braves, and the Nationals. So that was pretty cool how that schedule worked out because those were some big, big games. And I think I did a highlights video on some of the games or one of the games against Atlanta. So go back and check that out. It's in this series. So yeah, took 3 out of 4 from the Mets. So maybe starting to roll again. The Mets are not great, but they do always play us hard. The Marlins always play us hard too. You look at the NL Central. St. Louis has clinched 93 and 63. Milwaukee 77 and 79 right there with the Braves. The rest of the Central is out. The West, the Dodgers are 106 and 49, 8 and 2 in their last 10. So no slowing down for them. I think they clinched 6 months ago. San Diego 89 win team. They're 18 games back. Arizona 84 win team. They are 23 games back. But both of those teams have clinched playoff spots. So let's just scroll down here. Like I said, San Diego's in, Arizona's in, Washington's magic number is 2 for the playoffs. It's Milwaukee, Atlanta, and San Francisco. Still with hope, but they got to do some winning. They got to get on track. Yeah, so that's your National League. Let's spin on over here to the American League real quick. Look through those. New York Yankees, 85 and 71. Their magic number is down to 1. Toronto, 6 games behind them. Tampa Bay, still alive, still in the playoff hunt, 10.5 out of the division. You've got the White Sox clinched with 90 wins. Minnesota and Kansas City out of the race for the Central, but they are still alive for the wild card. Texas, 93 win team. Their magic number is down to 1. Seattle is 87-69, 6 games behind them, but they are still alive, or they're in the playoffs. Excuse me. Los Angeles Angels and the Houston Astros. How is Houston still alive? I don't get that. All right. Anyway, let's take a look at the wild card. Just went through that, just trying to figure out how Houston's 5.5 behind. Oh, because Toronto's only got 79 wins. Okay. So magic number for Toronto and Kansas City, both at 7, Minnesota 5. So there's some work to do for some teams. Some teams got to be winning, including our Phillies. We want to win that division. We don't want to be coming in here as a wild card because actually, if you look at the wild card, we got 85 wins. We would currently be the second wild card, but yeah, if we don't win this division, that means we've lost some games. So there's a really good chance we could be looking at the final wild card spot, trying to play our way in essence. So win this division, and puts us in a better spot. All right, what else do we need to talk about? Let's take a look at those Nationals. They were way out in front in the NL East earlier in the season before I started doing this series. The Phillies in July and August. Let's go back to ours real quick. So I want to show you this. July and August just caught fire. 16-9 in July, 19-8 in August. Prior to that, we were a 500 club. Looking at the trade deadline, I wasn't even sure if I was buying or I was thinking about selling. But it was the month of July just turned everything around. August it continued. September cooled down, like I said, but that's what moved the Phillies past Washington and into first place in the NL East. These Nationals, this is a season that actually started in Out of the Park 23. So it's a continuation of that. So there's a lot of things that are very, very different than what you would expect to see on these teams in real life. They're very different squads because you're talking about a couple of seasons now. I think the third season I'm playing through right now. So at second base, Merrifield, Rosario, Juan Soto is still a national. It's one of the reasons why they're still competitive. You have him and Luis Garcia at third base, giving you a lot of pop. That's almost 60 over 60 home runs between them, 37 here. So this is a team, it's a dangerous club. They can swing the bats. Pitching is not the best, but they have guys that are capable of throwing good games. So I think that's the difference in this team is the pitching is not great. The offense is pretty darn good. You see they're number one in batting average, second in runs scored, and fifth in home runs. So it's a dangerous squad. If you have a bad day pitching, these guys can beat you. So we have to be mindful of that. All right, those are your Nationals. That's, like I said, they were way up in the East that July and August. Phillies moved past them, have stayed ahead of them by as many as 5.5 games. Nationals have that down to 3.5, but only 6 games to go, so time's running out there. Final 6 games for our Phils. Not a bad schedule here. There's some winnable games here. Pittsburgh for 3, and then 2 New York with the Mets for the final 3 of the season, and then you're looking at playoffs. So the Phillies have a good opportunity here to wrap up this division, get some guys rested, and get things lined up for the playoffs. We'll do another video. We'll talk about, once we get closer to that, we'll do a video on what the plan for the playoffs is. But there's some questions in the pitching rotation. If you look at Zach Wheeler, there's the biggest one right there, 4-4, 5.28 earned run average. He's not been very good since coming back from injury. So, who are our best pitchers for the playoffs? That's what we're going to talk about then. All right. Going forward. All right. Why did I do a podcast? I explained a little earlier that I wanted to put some context to the videos that I've been creating. And I think if you're watching this series on YouTube, now maybe you'll be able to get more immersed in the season and understand what's happening and what these videos mean. Why was that national series? I did two series, a 4-game and a 3-game set, did 2 highlight reels on the Nationals. Why were those important? I think if we do it this way, you're going to understand why those were important series in this. Coming up for the playoffs, really thinking that it'd be fun to, and rather than just doing a highlight reel, I might do whole games. I might just post up a whole game. It takes me about 25 minutes to play through a game, so it's not a crazy long video. We'll do something to set it up, so anybody catching it will understand the context of what they're seeing, and then we'll just run it through. Don't really plan on doing play-by-play. I've seen some folks who do that sort of thing, and they're really good at it. I have actually done play-by-play in a previous job. It doesn't mean I'm good at it, right? And I also want to focus on the game. So if we do start posting, or maybe even potentially live streaming some of these games as well, don't expect me to be doing play-by-play calls. I want to focus on the game. I want to do it more of a here's the view from the dugout kind of thing. So yeah, so think of it as the manager's talking to you while the game's going on. All right, so we'll see if we get to that. I think I'm going to do it that way. And like I said earlier, if you're discovering this on YouTube, this is a video series that was created as a supplement to a dynasty series I started in the OOTP 24 forums. I'll put a link down below for that. And yeah, I think that's about it for us today, man. If you're still hanging with me 25 minutes into this thing, thank you very much. I thought this was going to be about 15 minutes, but I rambled about the bullpen for way too long. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. We'll continue this, and I appreciate the time, because I know that you have a lot better things you could be doing with your time today than listening to me ramble on about my Out of the Park baseball team. But it's a fun game. If you haven't played it, check it out. I really love the game. And if you love baseball, you'll love Out of the Park. That's for sure, okay? All right. This is Judge Metal. Feels weird calling myself that, but that's what I'm going with. And this has been your Philadelphia Phillies Playoff Push podcast for the 2024 season. Hey, don't be afraid to like it. Don't be afraid to subscribe. Tell your friends. I don't swear too much, so tell your kids. And yeah, comment too, man. If you want to, if you saw something in there you don't understand about the lineup, or who is that guy? I've never heard of this player. Feel free to throw it in the comment section, and we'll talk about it a little bit. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. Again, I'm Judge Metal. Have a great day.